Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Last time we were studying the method to determine the critical load or the ultimate load carrying capacity of the column. So first of all, we have discussed the Euler critical buckling load formula, which can be used only for the long column or cylinder column, where the failure is the elastic failure. Why the failure is referred as the elastic failure? Because the critical stress or the buckling stress is much less than the yielding stress or the proportional limit. So failure is within the elastic limit. In the next topic, we studied that how to determine the capacity of intermediate column. Intermediate column whose behavior is between the short column and the long column. It means that the failure is the combination of the axial forces plus the flexural effect due to the bending forces. So first of all we discuss the formula, the tangent modulus. So in that case, what we do, we just replace the modulus of the elasticity with the tangent modulus of elasticity within the elastic limit to determine the critical load or the critical stress of the intermediate column. So there is another formula for the intermediate column which is called as a Rankine-Golden formula. So the formula is only suitable for the cylinder column with small imperfection. Small imperfection. So why small imperfection? Because whenever a column is undergoing a small imperfection, so this small imperfection produce the eccentricity within the column, which are also inducing the later bending moment. So thus causing the reduction in the capacity. So in practice, most of the intermediate column fail due to the combined effect of the compression and flagger effect, and experimentally obtained results are much lesser than the Euler prediction. This means that if we are having a long formula which is an ideal column, it means that if the load is perfectly concentric and it is not having any initial imperfection, so it may have the critical load may be equal to 100 kilonewton. But if that column will undergo some imperfection, so these imperfections will reduce its capacity. This means that all type of the long column, if they are having certain imperfection, eccentricity in the load, then they will have the capacity a little bit lesser than the, or maybe in some cases significantly less than the Euler critical load. So Gordon suggested an empirical formula based on experimental results and to predict the load for the intermediate column, and this formula was further refined by the so according to the Rankine, intermediate column or the member fail due to the buckling and compression to more or a less degree load carrying capacity of such member can be and the capacity of such member can be computed by the following formula. This means that here the PR is the Rankine load carrying capacity of the formula, and here PC is the capacity corresponding to the compression failure. This means that here he is considering the a perfectly short column, and PE is the Euler critical load. This means that he is suggesting that the failure is the combination of the compression failure plus the buckling failure. So he is taking the axial load carrying capacity and the Euler critical load carrying capacity in its denominator. So after simplification, so because unknown is the Rankine critical load, so after taking the LCM and simplification, we get the equation number 16. So in the equation number 16, P is the Euler critical load and PC is the load carrying capacity corresponding to the axial failure or without any bending effect. So here, just like I have explained that PR is the Rankine-Gordon buckling load, P is the Euler buckling load, and PC is ultimate compressive capacity. So here PE is the Euler critical load, which is equal to pi square EI over effective length square, and the compression capacity is simply equal to the compressive stress or ultimate stress multiplied by the area, or in case of the steel structure, that is sigma y into A. This means that the member is achieving its full full load carrying capacity without any buckling effect. So if we substitute the value of P sub C and PE, Euler critical load, in equation number 60, so we can simplify the formula just like this. So here in this equation, so the value is multiplied, and also further if we multiply this value PC by area and divide by the area, so load over area will become the stress further multiplied by the area. So that's why we have multiplied the above the Py with the area and divided by the area, so we have converted into the stress. Similarly, we have converted the other critical load into the stress by multiplying and dividing by the area. So after this simplification, because area they will be cancelled out, so we are having this equation. So in this equation, sigma in y into A is the ultimate load carrying capacity, LE over R square is the readiness ratio, and sigma y is the ultimate load carrying capacity over pi square into E. This complete factor is also a constant because ultimate capacity of the material is a constant. For example, if we are using the 836 steel, for it sigma y will always be a constant. So pi square is a constant and E value for any material is also constant. Just to simplify this formula, we can replace sigma y over pi square into E by another constant which is referred as a. So A is equal to sigma y square over pi square into E. So if we substitute the value here, so we are getting a more simplified equation number 17. So this equation number 17 formula to compute the load carrying capacity of the intermediate column or a long column with small imperfection. So here A is the Rankine constant which depends upon the boundary condition and material properties, and this can be determined experimentally. Here this equation shows the behavior of the ultimate load carrying capacity or critical buckling stress of the column or the cylinder member with the increase of the slenderness ratio. So if the slenderness ratio is more than 100, so it means that this is a long column. So for the long column, we can compute the capacity by simply the Euler critical buckling load formula. And if the slenderness ratio is less, so we know that Euler buckling load formula cannot be used because it gives the value on the higher side or the solution is insignificant for previous solution. So in that case, what we may do, so we have to use the Rankine-Gordon formula in order to include the the lower slenderness ratio or the centricity. So in this case, if we are using the Rankine-Gordon formula, so capacity is reduced as compared to the other formula. So it means that we can use the Rankine-Gordon formula for the short column also, for the intermediate and also for the long column. So the Rankine-Gordon formula gives us this value if we are changing the slenderness ratio of the column, keeping the sigma y is constant and area is constant. So with the increase of slenderness ratio, we are achieving the above the bottom curve. So sigma, so Rankine constants are given here for different material because we in the previous slide we have seen that A is equal to sigma y over pi square into E. So is constant for all type of steel, regardless that what is the grade of the steel. So E value is always constant. So pi square will also be constant. This means that if we know the yield strength of the material, we can determine the Rankine. So here the Rankine of the steel. So for the mild steel, if the yield strength is 325, A value will be 1 by 7500. And for the timber, sigma y, for the timber you can use the sigma ultimate instead of the sigma y. The yield strength in case of the steel, but this is equal to ultimate load carrying capacity in case of timber or the cast iron. So for the timber, this value is 1 by 3000, and similarly the value of the A constant is also given for the wrought iron and for the cast iron, just like in this table. So next is the example problem. So a cast iron column of 200 millimeter external diameter is 20 mm thick and 4.5 meter long. Assuming the both end rigidly fixed, calculate the safe load using the Rankine formula if Rankine constant 1 A Rankine constant A is equal to 1 by 1600. So ultimate load carrying capacity or the ultimate stress is equal to 550 megapascal, and the factor of safety will be used as a 4. So this is a summary of the data. Sigma y or the maximum stress is given 550 megapascal. So this is the hollow circular cross section, with d outer is equal to 200 millimeter, and the thickness of this section is equal to 20 mm. So length is equal to 4.5. So factor of safety is given 4. So A value will be used as a 0.5 because both ends are fixed. So A value is given as a 1 by 1600. Okay, here the factor of safety is equal to the ultimate load carrying capacity divided by the allowable load carrying capacity. Or in other words, we can determine the safe load by dividing the inclined load carrying capacity with the factor of safety. So in this solution, I always suggest that first of all write down the formula, and in the formula just look up that what is the unknown and what data is given. This means that we are given the sigma y, we are given the area can be determined from the geometrical properties. L is also given, radius of gyration can also be determined. So A value is directly given, so only unknown is the PR value. Here, the factor of safety is equal to the ultimate load carrying capacity or the buckling load divided by the allowable. So P safe will be equal to PR over factor of safety. So it means that if we know the PR value, we can determine the safe load carrying capacity. So the Dine coordinate formula will be used. So first of all, we will determine the effective length, which is the 0.5 into the 4.5, which is equal to 2.25 meter. And first of all, we need to determine the inner diameter. Inner diameter will be equal to outer dia minus 2 times of the thickness, so which is equal to 160 millimeter. So since we need to calculate the radius of gyration, so minimum radius gyration will be same for the hollow circular cross section. So moment of inertia of this hollow circular cross section will be equal to pi d outer force divided by 64 minus the moment of inertia of the hollow portion. So we will have the answer 46.37 into f(6). Similarly, area of the hollow circular section can be determined pi d outer square by 4 minus pi d inner square by 4. After substituting the values, we also got the area, and radius of gyration is simply equal to under root I over a, which is coming out to be 64.237. So it means that we know the R value, we know the LE value, A value is also directly given, sigma y is given, so we can determine the PR value. So from here, value can be determined by substituting all the values over here. So Rankine critical load is coming out to be 3520.3 kilonewton. Here we have divided this value by exponent 3 to convert into the kilonewton. So P safe will be equal to P Rankine divided by factor of safety 4, and the P safe value is 880 kilonewton. Okay, at this point, I would like to take some questions. If someone is having the question, so just quickly ask the question. So question answer session will be just 45 minutes. So I will start the next topic, the secant formula. If there is no any question, so I would like to continue. Yes, 16. Please ask the question.
यस सर, क्वेश्चन ये था कि जैसे जैसे आपका कॉलम सिलेंडर होता जा रहा है कि सिलेंडर कॉलम में आपको यील्ड स्ट्रेंथ मैटर नहीं करती, कि अगर आप ग्रेड 40 या ग्रेड 60 या ग्रेड 70 किसी स्टील का इस्तेमाल करें एज अ सिलेंडर कॉलम, तो वो मैटर नहीं करता, वो सेम लोड बकल होगा.
No. This is not the case. This is the other case. Actually, the capacity of the long column is the function of the slenderness ratio.
Yes, sir.
Understand me?
Yes, sir.
I understand your question. You are saying that I square E over slenderness ratio is constant, so it is independent of sigma y.
Yes, sir.
So some cases, actually, I don't want to discuss in detail. Actually, if a material is having more sigma y value, so it is more susceptible to buckle. But that is a very advanced topic I don't like to discuss here. But anyhow, you are right to a certain extent that so the sigma critical is independent of the stress value. It is rather the function of the slenderness ratio. So what I want to say that here the formula that we have considered in Rankine-Gordon formula, actually this formula is considering the imperfection within the long column, because either formula provide us the ideal value, the critical load value for the ideal column, which is free from any imperfection. This means that load is perfectly concentric. The center line of the column is coinciding with the theoretical center line. There is no initial crookedness. But if the column is having any small imperfection, so the either formula cannot consider that small imperfection, because either formula is independent of sigma y. So that's why the Euler formula is not considering the effect of the yield strength. So here the Rankine-Gordon he introduced a formula which also consider the effect of the yield strength or the ultimate load carrying capacity, and also consider the effect of small imperfection. This means that if you are having the a column with certain particular dimension, same data, if we are determining the Euler critical load, that might be maybe 80, or if we are determining the Rankine critical load, and that might be maybe less than 80 or maybe 75 or maybe 70, it means that we are on the safer side. So that's why the Rankine he introduced this formula to determine the load carrying capacity of the intermediate column or long column with small imperfection. Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, if there is no any further question, then I should continue the next topic. Okay, now I am considering the next topic. Here there is a one follow-up problem. So I'm not going to provide the solution. So if you are unable to solve, just contact me. Then I will let you know how to solve this. So for the given data, determine the length of the column for which the Euler formula ceases to apply. So sigma y is given as a 325 megapascal, modulus of elasticity is 200 gigapascal, the outer is given, the inner is given, length is also given, a value is given equal to 1, a value is also given. So actually I am letting you know that the hint is given. So Euler formula ceases to apply. It means that Euler formula is only applicable for the long column, and Rankine-Gordon formula is only applicable for the intermediate column. It means that the maximum slenderness ratio corresponding to the Rankine formula is equal to the lowest slenderness ratio value for the Euler critical load formula. It means that at this boundary point, Rankine formula and Euler formula both must give the same value at boundary point, because the Rankine formula gives the value until the maximum slenderness ratio corresponding to the intermediate column, and Euler critical formula is applicable for the from the maximum slenderness ratio of the intermediate formula to the any higher value. So here the hint is that just equate the PR value with the PE, Rankine formula with the Euler critical load formula. So in this formula, just only unknown value is the length, and all the other parameters are given. If you are solving this equation, I believe that you will be able to determine the length of the column required, at which the both Rankine formula and Euler formula are giving the same value. Okay, now next is the eccentrically loaded column or the secant formula. So I can say that Rankine-Gordon formula is also an empirical formula. Empirical formula means that that is not the exact formula, that is not based on actual mathematical derivation, but that is partially based on some experimental data. But if we want to determine the exact or maybe to a very precise load carrying capacity of eccentrically loaded column, then we need to derive the formula from the mathematical expression or from the theory of the elasticity. Okay, let me continue from the back from the previous topic. So first of all, we derived the low critical the formula to determine the critical load of the long column. So which was the either critical stress or either critical load. In that case, we consider the ideal column. Ideal column is that free from any eccentricity initially. Okay, if the same long column, if it is having some imperfection, for example, here so there will be some extra movement. Then how can be affected? In that case, we have to consider the effect of the imperfection. Capacity will be much lesser than the capacity corresponding to the ideal column or the ideal load. So here the derivation is same, just a little bit modification is there. So we are considering the same certain eccentricity. So load is acting on the left side to the centroidal axis, having the eccentricity E. If you are transferring the load from its own line of action to the centroidal axis, so it will accompany with a movement. So we have converted the load into movement and into the moment and load. So it means that this moment will be equal to P into E. If we are taking the moment of this load P about this point A, so the moment will be P into E. It means that now we have converted the load into the concentric load, but now it is accompanied by a moment. Because whenever we are transfer our load from one point to another point, it is always accompanied by a couple. So here it means that at this start, the column is subjected to some extra moment, which was not in the arithmetical formula. This means that now if we are increasing the load, so the column will deflect in the later direction due to the combined effect of the moment and also P. This means that now if the column is approached to the critical load means that if we are increasing the load, so it will deflect in the later direction. So the y will be maximum at the center at any point, the deflection will be equal to y. So similarly, for example, if we are taking any cross section, cutting section any point at any point just like the point Q, so we are assuming the coordinate system from this point A, origin A, and downward value will be the x value and the horizontal value in this direction will be the y value. So the difference from this the center line before the deflection to the distorted center line is equal to y, and x is the distance of this point Q from the point A. Okay, here if we are taking this, applying the equilibrium equation at point Q, so it means that this load P will be equal to this apply load B by applying the summation of the load along this vertical axis equal to 0. Similarly, we are taking the moment of all the summation of the movement of all the forces about this point Q. So at this point, the moment will be equal to. So this load is producing the moment about this point equal to P into Y in counterclockwise side. Plus we are also having some additional moment which is MA. So it means that total moment MA here will be equal to MA plus PY. So total moment MQ is the summation of the moment produced by due to the eccentricity of the load plus the extra moment which is acted at point A. So MA is also equal to P into E. If we are substituting the value of the MAP into E and taking the P as a constant, so moment at point Q is equal to E plus Y. This means that here we are having some additional E. So this E will be remain constant because this moment which is acting MA, this will be remain constant throughout the length. So it means that only the difference from the Euler formula is that in the Euler formula derivation we had the moment m2 is equal to p into y, but now we are having the moment p into e plus y. This means that there is some additional moment arm, which is eccentricity, which is producing some extra moment. So this extra moment may reduce the flagellum stiffness of the column. So it will this means that it will compromise the load carrying capacity. Next is the derivation is simply the same, just the repetition. So we are having the Flagler equation. So this Flagler equation is in terms of the moment curvature form. So we just need to input the value of the m2 here. That will be minus p into e plus y, because moment is negative, because tension is on the right side of the section and the curvature is positive. So after substituting the values, we are having the equation number 1. So multiplying all the parameters into the inside. So p into e plus p into y. Divide the whole equation by ei and bringing the parameter p into y to this side. So we are having the equation number 24. Similarly, again we can replace the p over e I value by the k square. So this formula will be simplified by double derivative of the y with reference to the x square plus ky square minus k square into e. Okay, in the Euler formula, this parameter was 0. Okay, now this parameter is not 0. This means that this equation is a non-homogeneous equation. So solution of this equation can be determined in two ways. This means that first of all we can equate this equation equal to 0. So this equation will become the homogeneous differential equation. And for the homogeneous differential equation, the general solution is same as of the previous case, c sin kx plus d cos kx. And second solution will be the particular solution for this parameter. So particular solution for this parameter will be equal to minus e. This means that total solution will be equal to y is equal to c sin kx plus d cos kx minus e. So this e is the particular solution for due to the eccentricity, and this is the general solution for this homogeneous differential equation if this is equal to 0. Actually this equation is the equation of the deflected column in lateral direction. So this means that this is the this equation show the deformed profile of the column over the entire length, which is the function of the x minus e. So e value is remain constant. So if we subtract the e value from the deflection in the lateral direction, that will be the total deflection only corresponding to the applied load. For example, if I will show you this slide again, mean that just assume if we just want to determine the deflected shape with reference to the center line. So for example, center line is starting from here to here, and the load is acting not passing through the center line, it is passing through here. This means that eccentricity is constant throughout the length from A to B. This means that whatever the deflection we are obtaining from the A to B, just subtract the E value from that deflection. So we will have the deflection from the point A to B. So regardless that load is acting on the left side or on the right side, E value will be negative. Because if the load is acting on the right side of the center line, then the column will deflect on the other side. So again we need to subtract the total eccentricity from the in order to get this solution. Anyhow, this is our equation number 26, which showing the deflected shape of the column when it is subjected to the eccentric load. If we know the value of the x, c and d, we can determine the y deflection at any particular point. Okay, again the constant can be determined by multiplying the boundary condition. At point A we know that both x and y equal to 0. So now if we are substituting the values, so sine 0 is equal to 0, so y is 0, so d cos 0 is equal to 1, So D will be remain as it. So E will be minus E. So if E is going to the other side, so here the constant D is equal to E value. So it is not equal to 0. In this case, we are having constant D is equal to E. Similarly, if we are substituting the second boundary condition, x is equal to L, y is equal to 0. So this in this parameter, so this is equal to 0. So C will as it, so sin KL, because we are substituting the x value equal to L. So here D is equal to E and cos KL minus E. So here we can simplify this. We can take the E as a constant. If E is taken as a constant, that is equal to 1 minus cos KL. Simplify the formula, we are just only converting into the double angle identities or just into the cos function. So we know that sin KL is equal to 1 minus cos KL. This is after the simplification, because we are bringing the sine function, cos function to the other side, and we have brought the sine function to this side. So this whole parameter is switched to the other side by using the double angle identities. So if KL multiply the KL by 2 divided it by 2, so that is equal to 2 sin KL by 2 into cos KL by 2 by using the double angle identities formula. And similarly 1 minus cos KL is equal to 2 sin KL into KL by 2. So I have used this formula. So after the simplification, so substituting the value of C and D into the equation number 26. So if we are substitute all the values over here, so here we are getting the C value here. That is very simple, because one sign will be cancelled out with the one sign, and if the cos is going to the other side, that will become the tangent. So C is equal to E tangent KL by 2. So it means that we got the C constant and also the D constant. So multiply the, so substituting the value of D and C into the equation number 26. So we are getting the equation number 27. So C is also having the E component, D is also having E. So this parameter, it was also. So after the y is equal to E tangent KL by 2 into sin kx plus y cos kx into minus 1. So this means that if we know the x value, so by substituting the any x value along the length, we can determine the deflected profile of. So equation 27 represent the equation of deflection at any point x along the column. The value of the maximum deflection can be calculated by setting x is equal to L by 2, because the column is simply supported. So if it is deflect in the lateral direction, so deflection should be maximum in the center, which is corresponding to the. This means that if I substitute the value of x equal to L by 2, I can determine the y maximum. So y maximum is equal to tangent KL by 2 into sin KL by 2 plus cos KL by 2 minus 1. So after the simplification, because tangent is equal to sin theta over cos theta, so sin from tangent will be multiplied with this sin, so this will become sin square theta. So in the denominator we will have the cos KL by 2. So after summing up these two parameters, taking the LCM in the denominator, so it means that we are having this equation. So sin square theta into cos plus cos theta is equal to 1, and 1 over cos theta is equal to secant theta, which means that this equation will turn out to be secant KL by 2 minus 1. So this is the formula to compute the maximum deflection in the column. So maximum deflection in the is equal to in the center. So that's why this formula is referred as a secant formula. Why this formula is called secant formula? Because it is having the secant function of the length of the column. So y maximum can be computed as a E secant KL by 2 minus 1. Again, if you want to determine the y maximum, so the secant this equation into the radian. So we also know that k is equal to p over ei under root. So if we are substituting this value in this equation number 28, so it means that this equation will become p over ei into L by 2. So here, please, it is very important to note down, this p is not equal to p critical or either critical load. Why it is not equal to either critical load? Because in the secant formula, this p value will always be less than either critical load. Because I told you that if a column is having small imperfection, so its load carrying capacity will always be less than PE. This means that this P is not equal to P either. Rather, this is the load carrying capacity or the critical load of the eccentric column. Here we will also verify that why this P will not be equal to P critical and it will always be less than P critical. Okay, here if you are substituting this value P into P critical, which is the pi square EI over LE square. So this EI will be cancelled out. So at the end we are having this expression. So secant pi by 2 is infinity. This means that this formula becomes trivial or insignificant. It is not providing any solution. This means that this formula is not applicable for P critical. So this value must be less than P critical. So because eccentric column will always have this P value less than EI. So which means that how I can modify this formula? So you can use this formula as it in order to determine the y maximum. Or if you want to further modify this formula, so you can also modify, you can substitute the value of EI from the P critical. P critical is equal to pi square EI over LE square. So if I want to separate out the value of the flexural rigidity EI, so EI is equal to P critical multiplied by L square divided by pi square. So just substitute the value of EI into this equation EI. Just P will be the load carrying capacity of the eccentric column, which is less than P critical. So I am substituting the value of EI just to simplify the formula. If you don't want to simplify the formula, you may use as substituting the value of EI in this equation. So after simplification, y maximum is equal to this equation number 30. So in equation number 30, maximum deflection in the column which is in the center if the both ends are pinned. If the column is cantilever, then the y maximum will be. This formula is equal to P into secant pi by 2 under root P over P critical. Here the P critical is the other critical load and P is the critical load of the eccentric column. So here the ratio of P over P critical will always be less than 1. If the P is equal to P critical, again equation is trivial. So source of eccentricity, how the eccentricity will come? For example, here we are having the column, so it is having the bracket over here. It is I section. Bracket means that, for example, load is not passing through the centroidal axis, so it is inducing the eccentricity. If you are transferring the load from its application point to the centroidal axis, so it is having some extra moment. So this is the source of the eccentricity. So y maximum can be determined by this formula. So this equation, again I am stating that it is the in radian. So next is that how to determine the maximum stress in the eccentric column. Okay, the maximum stress in the column will be the summation of the stress due to the axial forces and the summation of the stresses due to the movement, the extra movement which is being produced within the column. So this is the movement which is causing the bending effect within the column corresponding to y maximum. So m maximum will be the maximum where the deflection is maximum. This means that due to the extra stresses due to the bending movement, the capacity will be less. Why the capacity will be less? Because load is approaching to the ultimate value at lower load value. It means that if you are just determining the load carrying capacity just based upon the peak and you are ignoring this parameter, so it means that you are overestimating the load carrying capacity. It means that if we are so it means that our section will not be safe. So actually when a column is bending in either of the side, so one side will be from the center line will be in tension and other side will be in compression. So the axial stresses will always be negative. Half of the column will be undergoing the positive compressive stresses, so positive flexural stresses, and half will undergo. So the stress will be maximum where the negative flexural stresses are being added up to the axial stresses. So here I am just ignoring the negative sign, so I am adding up the compressive stress due to the forces and compressive stresses which will be at the extreme fiber, any extreme fiber or the outer fiber of the column. So from here, so this is the my over I. So why I am replacing the y with c? So c is the distance from the neutral axis to the maximum and extreme fiber. So in this equation, what is the m maximum? M maximum we have seen that is equal to p into y maximum plus e. So we had the formula y plus e. So if you want to compute the maximum moment, so maximum moment will be corresponding to the y maximum. So P is equal to y plus E. It is similar moment that we have input at the start. So C is the distance from the neutral axis to the string fiber. So I is equal to AR square. Or you may remain I value as it. So MC is equal to P into Y maximum into E. So Y maximum value, we can determine the Y maximum either by numerically, or if we know the expression, so y maximum you can either substitute from this equation or from this equation. So if you are substituting the y maximum value over here and MC value over here, so we can determine the resultant stress. Okay, let's go. I have substituted the values of the y maximum, which is equal to E into secant KL by 2 minus 1. So C over R square will be inside. So P over A is taken as a constant because P over A from here and PA over from here can be taken as a common at outside. So after this simplification, we may get this equation number 32. So this is equation number 32 that we can use to compute the maximum stress within the eccentric column. And we need to compare this stress against the ultimate strength of the material. If this sigma maximum is less than sigma y or crushing value of the concrete, then the column is safe. Okay, again here in this equation, this P is the applied load which is causing this stresses. This means that the moment is also the function of this P load. This means that if we are ignoring the moment factor, the stresses which are produced by the load due to the eccentricity, then it means that we are underestimating the stress value. For example, if you are ignoring this factor and you are just determining the stress by this P over A parameter, maybe stress will be equal to 200 megapascal, and 200 megapascal is less than 250 megapascal for a 36 steel, and you are assuming that the material is safe or the column is safe. But if you are considering the moment factor, so for example, this moment factor is also causing the 75 megapascal stress. So then the resultant stress will be 275, which is more than 250. So column will break. So this means that we have to consider the effect of the eccentricity. This means that if a column is subjected to the eccentricity, its load carrying capacity will be reduced due to the extra bending stress produced by that eccentricity. Replacing the KL by 2 value as following. So it means that you can replace this KL by value by this parameter, or you can remain as it. So finally, you can either use equation number 32 or equation number 33. So here the P is equal to the load at which the buckling may occur or the failure may occur in the centric column. So P critical is the higher critical load about the bending axis of eccentric column. So this P will be less than P critical. Okay, next it is very important. Equation 33 can be used for any end condition as long as the appropriate K value is used to compute the P critical. P critical K value means boundary condition. K value means if the both ends are fixed, K value will be 0.5, 1 and pin, 1 and fixed, K value will be 0.7, and if the K is cantilever, then the K value will be 2. Okay, please mute your gentlemen. Please mute your mic. I am concluding the lecture. Okay, just since sigma maximum does not vary linearly, gentlemen, please close your mic. Please close your mic.
पापा से बोलो बाहर से निकाल
Whose mic is open, please? Please close your
पापा
mic.
से बोलो बाहर से निकालने मैंने वहां से निकालनी है
Okay, anyhow, okay. Okay, I will just conclude the lecture. Equation number 33 can be used for any end condition as long as we are using the appropriate boundary end condition factor K value to compute the P critical. It means that K value will be used 2 for the cantilever column, for both and fixed may be 0.5, 1 and pin 1 and fixed will be 0.7. Okay, next is very important point, second point. Not vary linearly with load P. The principle of superposition is not applicable to determine the stress due to the simultaneously application of applied load. For the same reason, any factor of safety should be used with load, not with. Why this point is very important? Okay, this point is important in this from this equation. If, for example, if the load is equal to 10, assuming that the stress will also be equal to 10 megapascal, because if the load is 10 divided by area by computing this all parameter, certain stress is also 10. And if you think that if the load is equal to 20, then sigma will also be 20. No, this is not the same. Sigma maximum is because if the load is increasing from 10 to 20, so this parameter will also increase. This means that when the load is increasing, it is also increasing the moment. This means that the stress corresponding to load 20 will not be equal to 20. It may be 40. This means that stress is increasing, maybe in the second degree curve, maybe parabolically with the increase of the load. This means that that is not the linear function. This means that further, if I am increasing the load, so due to the load, so deflection will also increase. So movement will also increase. This means that increasing the load is also increasing the axial stresses and also the bending stresses. It means that if the two loads are acting simultaneously, for example, I say that there are two loads acting, one is the 10 kilonewton and one is 20 kilonewton. If 10 kilonewton load is causing the total stress as a 10 megapascal and you have computed it separately, and if the load 20 kilonewton acting separately and the stress produced by 20 kilonewton when it is acting separately is causing the stress 40 megapascal. So it means that 20 kilonewton is causing the stress 40 megapascal and is causing the 10 megapascal. And if the load is acting 50 kilonewton, so do you think that maybe if we are adding the stress produced by the 10 kilonewton force and stress produced by 20 kilonewton force, if you are adding up, then the total stress will be equal to 50 kilonewton load? No, you cannot compute like this. You cannot sum up the stress produced by the two different loads when they are acting simultaneously. Why? Because if the load of 50 kilonewton is acting, then the resultant stress may be 100 megapascal. That is not the summation of the stress produced by 10 kilonewton and the stress 50 kilonewton. Because why? Because when we are increasing the load, so it is also increasing the movement. So it is some sort of second degree change. It means stress is not the linear function of the P, or it means that the principle of superposition is not applicable. So since the stress is not increasing linearly with load P, so we can with sigma maximum. If we want to use the factor of safety, we always need to use the load, the factor of safety will be applied load P. So here it means that if we are given the load P, so we can easily determine the sigma maximum. But if the maximum stress are given, then we need to determine this load value by using the hit and trial equation, by hit and trial method using the equation number 32 or 34. I think I will conclude my lecture over here. So next time when I will start second part. If you are having some question, so you may ask the question. So I am having the 5 minutes. So if you are having any other lecture, so I may conclude the lecture. If you raise the hand if someone is having the question.
कर लें क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन, क्योंकि नेक्स्ट क्लास है, एक दो क्वेश्चन समझाने में थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा.
एक्चुअली इसमें ये था कि दरमियान में किसी स्टूडेंट का माइक ओपन हो गया था, जिसकी वजह से जो है वो थोड़ी डिस्टॉर्शन हुई है. सो नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हेन आई विल स्टार्ट द लेक्चर, सो आई विल गिव यू द ओवरव्यू ऑफ द लास्ट 2-3 स्लाइड्स अगेन. सो anyhow I will send you these slides by tonight, so that from the next class you must have these slides with you. So at what time you are having the next class? Right now?
Yes sir.
Yes sir, 12.
Okay, then I would like to conclude the lecture.